Welcome to Giants Nation. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Ryan Novozinsky of NJ.com. 5 days of training camp in the books. Has been practice 3 through 5 since our last episode. Ed Valentine of Big Blue View is on the podcast. His first time on the show. It was good to meet him. And we got Jaxson Dart's best day and a lot more to talk about. How we feeling, Ryan?
I'm feeling good, man. I feel like this training camp has kind of been peaks and valleys a little bit in terms of weather, in terms of performance of the offense, especially. I think things are settling now, though, right? Wouldn't you say so? At least we're finally starting to get some momentum, at least with some of the more important position groups.
Yeah, we got our first fully padded practice, which means a lot. They started running the ball, which you don't do a ton. I do think you can figure out quite a bit in upper pads about like matchups and stuff, but full pads is the first time they're really comfortable running the ball, and then the defense has to account for that more often. So we're gonna get into all of it. Jaxson Dart, Abdul Carter, those are obviously in the title. But before we get into this episode, is brought to you by some special people. We got Josh O or Josh Zero, but I think he's he's good. We got Waste. He doesn't waste anything, even though his name is Waste. Sion, not Sean, Sion. Highlight Nims 778. You guys are really testing me with the names. And then Cristobal Aligman, which I won't hold your first name against you because I hate Mario Cristobal. I think he's an overrated head coach in Miami. These special people went to patreon.com/GiantsNation. They're getting stickers in the mail. They get to enter into the shirt raffles. The exclusive content is now starting to kick off. Now that we got training camp, I'm doing daily training camp articles on Patreon. We're going to have some exclusive film content as the preseason games get going. So it's patreon.com/GiantsNation. It's what's keeping this show alive. It is the lifeblood of the show. So patreon.com/GiantsNation. You'll be glad you did. Let's get into Jaxson Dart. Obviously we knew we were going to talk about him, for some extent on the first podcast at training camp just because it's the first time. And he was struggling. And even day 3, which, we didn't talk about on the last episode, if you look at the training camp stat numbers, they weren't bad, but it was like, this does not look good. He doesn't want to throw the ball at all in team drills, even on 7-on-7, he's not throwing the ball. Well, day 4 on Sunday, where, the biggest day out here, even got some rain at the end, you saw Dart start to get more comfortable, and that's what we wanted to see out of Dart. But you even matched it with, success on the things that he was doing, where he was 11 of 13, where he did do good on 7-on-7. We'll, talk about the details of what we saw. So obviously, like I said, I wanted to see him have these good days, but I just wanted to see him get the ball out on quick and have a better just grasp of the offense. And he certainly has shown that in these last couple of practices.
Yeah, that's why today, for me at least, play calling wise, was sort of a letdown. I understand that they'd get the pads on and stuff like that, but today being a running day was almost a letdown because you wanted to see what Jaxson Dart was able to do with that momentum. This was a legitimately that day 4 that Bobby refers to was the legitimately great day for Jaxson Dart. Like, to use the same terminology that Bobby used on the live stream we did after yesterday's practice. Um, he said, when he was talking about Cam Scatabo, he's like, "Oh, his runs aren't just these aren't like fluky, like good training camp runs. These are legitimately good runs." That practice was a legitimately good practice from Jaxson Dart, where he's getting the ball out quick, making quick decisions, but also airing it out in a good way and making he just looked clutch out there too. Like when they do it in the 2-minute drill. So for us not to be able to see that momentum carry over, I'm curious to see how he does tomorrow when they hopefully start airing out.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, we're talking about the Monday practice. I think he went 4 of 6. Had a couple of screen passes in there. There's not much to be taken away from. I've accidentally started zooming in on this computer.
Oh, I got you.
I got you. I
You got
figured it out. Um, but like you said, I didn't. It wasn't just good for a rookie first round quarterback who had 3 bad days practice. It was just like if that was Patrick Mahomes and he had the exact same practice, but good day from Patrick Mahomes out here where you saw quick game stuff, getting the ball out on time, and then you saw, some third down situations where the offensive line held up fairly well. He was able to hang in there, not crazy long, but hang in there enough time and find guys like Bo Collins or Juice Wells down the field in those key situations and hit the ball with good accuracy and on time. There was 7-on-7. I don't look to have any big takeaways from, but there was a play where he threw the ball quick to Theo Johnson, and Dane Belton's coming to make a play. And maybe in a real game, Dane Belton is able to, light up Theo Johnson and dislodge the football and ends up being an incomplete pass. But it was just the fact that, hey, this is a bang bang decision. He even threw it a little behind Theo, which was better placement than leading him because it would have led him right in the Dane Belton. And it's like it's even if that didn't go well, that's the type of thing I want to see. Where in the first 3 days in that, he's like he wouldn't have thrown that. He would have seen Dane Belton working over, and he would have just holstered onto it and hold onto the ball and have Dable yelling him to get rid of the ball. So it's just good to see him to get the ball out on time and then find the success that he's had. He had on Sunday. And looked solid on Monday where they didn't throw the ball a lot.
Right, and kind of a good little double whammy there too, or well, I guess a reverse double whammy, in that Theo Johnson play you referenced because he was being tightly covered by Dane Belton, and the fact that Jaxson Dart was able to wire it into him and make such a quick decision, while also making a decent risk that paid off, for a guy like Theo Johnson, that's also going to be a big part of of his future. And as you know, at Valentine, a little spoiler, we would talk about later. We talk extensively about Theo Johnson later. So, just two good things all around for the Giants. I think the thing that fascinates me the most about this camp is I thought there would be a lot of growing pains for a lot of different players, but between and Dart certainly the first few days, but a lot of just overall roster wise, I feel like everyone's kind of hitting it in stride. There's a lot of positives in this Giants camp, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and Carter, which we're gonna get to in a second, Scattaboo. It feels like the rookies have been, on polar, at least the first 4 picks where it's like Carter and Scattaboo great, and then Dart outside of one day and Alexander's really struggling. But with Dart, like when we get the preseason games, because I don't want to over analyze every practice throw and come on the next show and be like, well, guess what he did in practice? Sometimes they held onto the ball long, sometimes they got it out on time. And guess what Bobby wants? Bobby wants them to get it out on time. So you guys don't get tired of me hearing that. Is when we do get to those preseason games, what I want to see is just an understanding of quick game, right? Like it'll be 10 plus practices in, plus all the OTAs. You're going to be facing very vanilla basic defenses. In fact, lesser players on those defenses. You know what? Complete 8 out of 10 of your quick game passes and throw, a ball to the flat and be making the right reads on those. Those are the type of growth spots I want to see from Jaxson Dart. Um, let's talk Abdul Carter. And I said on the last episode I wanted to lead the next episode with Abdul, but Dart had a good day, so we had to do that. I've been in full bloom love with Abdul since I started watching Abdul, even before just seeing cut ups of him. And I remember talking about on our Edge draft preview, me and Grump. I was like, I'm at the point where I like Abdul so much that when people point out some flaws in his game, though real, I just view that person as a hater. Um, I think he's a top 4 player on the team, and I'm not asking everyone else to make that proclamation or whatever, but, like, the last 2 days have been an Abdul Carter show. Like, Sunday, he just worked Jermaine Illuminor. Like, he bend the edge, he's got that bend, dip, gets around the corner, what might have been a strip sack. He sets Illuminor up for a spin move a couple plays later, hits on that. Even when his first move doesn't win, he counters super well. You watch him in one-on-ones today, he beats Aluminum around the corner, and then they start matching him up with the backups because Thomas isn't out here, and it's just easy work. Like, he just punks who whatever backup player, non-Jermaine Illuminor player is out there, and then he beats Illuminor, and I'm like, what is the only thing stopping me from saying it is the fact that we haven't seen it in games yet. But I guess what I'm seeing him on the same field as these guys. He rushes the passer better than Brian Burns. And I think he's been more disruptive in the run game than Brian Burns. He's clearly better than Kayvon. I think he's better than the group of Okereke, Holland, um, and Odebo. And really the only 3 guys on the team where I'm like, those guys are I'm not putting him over them. It's Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas, and Malik Neighbors. Like, I think the only borderline guy with me is Brian Burns.
I'm with you there. Listen, I think you're not alone in that thought. I think there are people inside that building, from what I understand, that he might even be better than exactly what they thought they were getting into when they drafted him, and they were high on him for a long time, and had a really obviously long laundry list of a scouting report on Abdul Carter, but the expectations have been exceeded. I think through 5 days of training camp. Yeah, he's been excellent, man. The way that he's able to kinda contort his body and I guess the pressure that he's able to add to it, like, the ability that he has to where you're not able to knock him over the bend, as you mentioned, and the athleticism that he's able to create even from that. It's almost like a leverage thing, right? To get to Russell Wilson or Jaxson Dart, whoever it might be in at quarterback at the time, is really something to watch, man. It's something. It's a sight to behold.
It's just so hard to block that,
Right.
because like he yeah, you can like get out of your pass set and stop him from winning the corner. If you do that, he is beating you inside.
Yep.
Right? He doesn't have these pre-planned moves. Sure, he obviously has a pre-rush plan, but he's not stuck on these pre-planned moves where he's like, all right, this time I'm really looking to bend the edge. Like if he does that, he will spin off of you, right? That's a lot of times spins go bad. And I kind of hate the spin move sometimes because guys just they pre-plan it and the tackle is just like, all right, I'm here. But if you are setting up an offensive tackle by working the corner, bending. Like that tackle naturally is gonna like, I gotta get out of my stance. I gotta make sure he does not get around the corner. Well, that's gonna just leave you vulnerable for those inside moves, and you've seen him do that. And even when like he strings things together so well that Illuminor actually did match him well on a spin move at one point, and immediately, his hands are in Jermaine Illuminor's chest and driving him backwards. Not this ass kicking
Mhm.
speed to power, but he's pushing Illuminor backwards into the quarterback's lap. Um, and you just see that like consistently where he's able to punk these guys. Even Ryan, he's had a couple plays at stack linebacker, and like one play they have a run towards him. He undercuts the receiver trying to crack block him and has a would-be tackle on Tyrone Tracy. Today, I'm like, okay, it's a stack linebacker. What am I watching it? They run the opposite way, an outside run, and little Jordan Humphrey goes to block him, and he just puts little Jordan Humphrey on his ass. And that's like it's a wide receiver, but he's a 6'4" wide receiver,
Right.
and he easily just bam punches him to the ground. Um, and I'm not someone who wants to see him at stack linebacker, but it just allows you to throw some more wrinkles out there. Like I I I've I thought that I would be in this situation where I'm like, I think he's a top 4 player on the team. Like I think that was my expectation eventually for him, but like I don't feel crazy declaring that right now.
Uh,
I just don't, and I feel like I'm usually the one pumping the brakes on rookie training camp and preseason performances more than other people. But with Carter, I'm just ready to declare that I'm ready, and I don't think he needs to play preseason, even though I want him to play preseason, so I can say that, so I can just watch him.
You're right, man. And listen, I feel like no matter where you line him up, like you mentioned, the creativity that Shane Bowen can have with this guy, putting him at stack linebacker, putting him off the edge, obviously, which would be the primary use of him. Lining him up at three tech, anything that he does, like I don't know with this bendability and with his explosiveness, how exactly these opposing linemen are going to be able to block him on a consistent basis. If he continues this trend, man, he's going to be a force in this league, and it might happen sooner than a lot of people think.
I think the only way these offensive linemen have a chance is body armor, like using the power of body armor
That
against them.
I actually wasn't expecting it that fast.
This episode is brought to you by Body Armor Sports Drink. Rewrite your routine and choose better with Body Armor. Body Armor is real hydration with electrolytes, coconut water, and no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners. I told the story on the live stream today. Somebody came up to me with a rival sports drink asking for a picture, and I took a Body Armor out of the cooler and swapped it with him because I was like, I don't want you to have no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners. I want more for you, my friend. With great tasting flavors like strawberry banana and orange mango, Body Armor will level up your hydration game. Grab Body Armor Sports Drink today at your local grocery store. Body Armor. Choose better.
Also got some water too.
These stores around here need to get better stock because I went to some stores to get that water the other day and a couple didn't have. So we need to get better stock up. If you own a grocery store, figure it out.
I usually when I get my body armor, I usually get it at Wawa.
So, all right. To finish my point on Carter, the only thing that's stopping me from, like, going full bloom, like, he's better than all of you, he's gonna kick your ass, is Illuminor's a good tackle. If you put him in, like, a offensive tackle between left and right, he probably comes somewhere in the 20s in the NFL.
Mhm.
And guess what? You're gonna be facing at least one of those guys almost every week unless you're playing the Eagles, where you have, two above average guys, or the rare teams that have 2 of those guys. So he's gonna have matchups against guys that can dominate. I'm at a point now where I want Andrew Thomas back, one, for his health and because he's so important to this team. But I need to see Abdul Carter versus an elite player, right? I mean, Andrew Thomas was my last like full bloom, you know, draft crush that the Giants ended up getting.
Mhm.
And Andrew Thomas, and I just want to I just like my two best friends. I want to see them fight to see which one of my better best friends is better.
No, I agree. That's the dream matchup at this training camp. Like, you look at and again, we talked about this off camera. It's like, you almost feel bad a little bit for Luminor because he is kinda holding his own. Like, he's not a bad offensive.
Illuminor handles Kayvon and Burns fairly
Right.
well. They'll
Yeah.
get some wins, but like he handles them. With Carter,
And
he
then you have
loses
this
almost every
menace.
time.
Yeah, you have this menace that comes in and completely messes it up. No, I think that battle between him and Andrew Thomas, you just wish that you could have it during training camp. At this point, whether Shane's optimistic about it or not remains to be seen. Exactly what the timeline is on Andrew Thomas, but man, how nice would it be if we could have seen that during these one-on-ones?
Yeah, and hopefully we get that. I mean, one for Andrew Thomas's health. Hopefully we get that soon. Um, but and again, if we do get that, Thomas has been like the king. Like it's crazy. Like Thomas just doesn't lose one-on-ones, which is a drill meant to like favor the defense.
Totally.
Um, like it's truly phenomenal. Just like yeah, you can do a cut up of Andrew Thomas versus whoever every day, and he just wins it. And that includes Brian Burns last year, Kayvon when he was coming up, and then anybody else. So I just like I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting to see Carter. Let's see how you do versus the elite, great top 8 to 10 left tackles in the NFL. Um, Other things we can hit on Evan Neal. We got to see him for the first time in full pads, and I think you still think people underrate how much of a picture you can get of offensive and defensive line front with just shoulder pads because the only difference is you don't tackle those guys. Like
Mhm.
the lower pads aren't making that much of a difference on those guys. The only difference is there's just much less run plays called. It's it's hard to say, but I will say like it's the Giants defensive tackle group is very bad outside of Dexter Lawrence, and Lawrence is not full go out here. That, for example, John Michael Schmitz, who, he had a very rough Friday where he was, snapping the ball high. Um, he, gave up a bad play versus Abdul Carter. And I wanted to defend JMS a little bit. It was like, well, Russ is short and he's getting used to it. These snaps aren't 10 feet above his head. They're like right here, at his forehead and Russ, and then one Russ wasn't ready on. And guess what? I would expect JMS to get beat by Abdul Carter. Hopefully not that bad, but get beat. But the real story is how is he as a blocker. Um, and one-on-ones, he dominated. Like,
Right.
he dominated. The issue is that this defensive tackle group it's the weakest position group on the team. Like, and it's just hard to judge these interior guys going against them because you especially in one-on-ones because there's whatever you think of them, there's no pass rushers outside of Dexter Lawrence who didn't partake in one-on-ones, and Darius Alexander he has struggled early on, so like there's just really no competition for the guys on the interior. But at least Evan Neal is clearing the bar of being good against the bad players on the inside because guard is, it's the first time he's been in that position since his freshman year at Alabama. And I would assume they think he'd never played guard in high school.
Oh, exactly, yeah, look, it was a huge training camp, obviously, before Evan Neal, make or break, right? This whole season is for him. The fact that he's able to even have strides like this, at a new position is pretty good to see. It's a good track to be on. I just again, once preseason starts up, once the real games start up, obviously, I think he's going to get every opportunity that's thrown at him. Right? It a little bit reminds me, I guess, of the Jalin Hyatt like last year, right? Where it's like, all right, go prove it. You have to go prove it. This is a prove it year for Evan Neal. Um, we're going to give you every opportunity in training camp. It's your time to go grab it. I think he's made the most of his opportunities, as Bobby mentioned, against a pretty lackluster defensive tackle group, no doubt. But even against a Dexter Lawrence, like he's able to stalwart him a little bit. In occasional team drills and stuff like that. Um, this is a guy that you need to see it, and you need to make sure 110% that Evan Neal is ready to go because it is a definite risk putting him out there if he's just training camp. He's just a training camp hero out here.
Yeah, and I'm not ready to buy into Evan Neal again. I think this defensive tackle group is very weak, but I'm repeating myself from the live stream a little bit where I am taking it more serious. Where I think I wanted to see Evan Neal out here out of curiosity, and not so much as a realistic option. Where I now think they may actually give him a shot to go out there and start at guard possibly and move Greg Van Roten to the bench.
And either guard spot too. I mean, I think both of them, John Runyon certainly is a body, but he's not exactly lighting the world on fire or anything. It's kind of it adds an interesting little wrinkle to it. Will because Evan Neal's practicing on both sides. Can he steal a job from Greg Van Roten? I think that is certainly a possibility. I think that's the most likely outcome if he is to start. And I don't really necessarily see the scenario where Van Roten ends up getting moved over to center. JMS, it's been a little rocky, but I do think that Dayball likes when they're the line makeup as it is right now.
So yeah, I think I will hopefully have some more like fleshed out Evan Neal stuff on the next episode. See some more fully padded practices, more one-on-ones. Again, he only got 2 one-on-one reps, which
Right.
if I were the Giants, I'd be like little less, Austin Schlottman and a little more Evan Neal, but at least he was able to do that. Hopefully, build some confidence off that.
And Stone Forsythe.
Yeah, Stone Forsythe. He's getting a ton. Stone Forsythe might be getting the most amount of reps.
Yeah.
Also, it's funny. James Hudson gets beat and then wants to fight, but we haven't had any fights yet. Have we done it? You know what? Usually we get a who is your prediction on the first training camp fight on the last mailbag. We didn't. Dude, who is your prediction? Don't go with the same everyone on the beat of James Hudson and Brian Burns. Go someone different.
I guess I'll go like I don't want to steal your answer because you said Scatterbo at the stream last time too.
Yeah, don't steal my answer. I'm using Cam Scatterbo.
All right, you give your answer first because I got to think about it for a second.
I'm gonna go Cam Scatterbo, Abdul Carter. I just feel like Scatterbo is the type to piss the defense off, and I think the defense kind of lacks some of those pissed offness, and I think Carter is that guy where I don't see Burns and Kayvon. Burns and Kayvon are definitely capable, but they're against the tackle. So if I'm picking Cam Scatterbo, I got to figure out. I don't see it being Nubin, Holland, Adebo, or Karake. So I'm gonna go. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna change my answer. I'm gonna go Scatterbo. I'm just gonna throw a wild card because he does get second team reps. I'm gonna say Demetrius Flanagan fouls. Just Demetrius Flanagan fouls versus Cam Scatterbo. We get a full on brawl.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I do think that at some point Scatterbo is going to be in the mix. And as Ed and I, we were chatting it up on the sideline today. I think we both said potentially that in some way, shape, or form, Scatterbo will be involved. James Hudson will be involved, and I think potentially James Hudson will be at the bottom of the dog pile, wherever it may be. That's my real answer is definitely Hudson versus Burns, or one of Burns or Thibodeau. But to give one that's kind of like out there, I guess, whoever wins the CB2 job and Malik Neighbors, and then they'll quickly drag Malik Neighbors away just because Malik Neighbors is kind of a shit talker, right? And these guys are obviously, the heat's on and everything like that, and the microscope is on both of those guys. So whichever one wins that job is going to end up having a little bit of a shove with Malik Neighbors.
Okay. All right.
It's not going to happen, but that's what.
Hey, you started fights in training camp last year with the Lions. All right. Some news to get on Bryce Ford-Wheaton. Unfortunately, tore his Achilles. I feel terrible. I mean, hurt his shoulder last year, missed most of the season. Tore his ACL in preseason of his rookie year. I mean, he made the roster on his own merit last year and was like a special teams contributor. We all remember the touchdown against the Seahawks and the blocked field goal. I'm not going to sit here and talk about how this affects the team that much. They brought back Gunnar Olszewski, who was injured all of last year and would have been their returner if it wasn't for him getting hurt. And then Amir Smith-Marset came in, I think, as an upgrade. But just obviously sucked for Bryce Ford-Wheaton.
No, it certainly does. And I feel like, too, Bryce Ford-Wheaton, he's kind of in the center of the locker room as well. Not to say he's like a huge locker room voice or anything like that, but, certainly one of those guys that everybody has you never hear a bad thing to be said about Bryce Ford-Wheaton. Not that you would anyway, but from our perspective, media-wise, it's a loss. And you just don't want to. This guy's had the worst injury luck in his young career. Just bad to see. I remember watching him even back to the West Virginia days. A lot of slants they would run with at West Virginia. Neal Brownwood.
He actually ran a good amount of screens too. And then Gunnar Olszewski again brought back. I don't know how much of a role. I think he would probably be the backup return, even though D. Williams seems to be in that role. But I mean, he did have a punt return touchdown a couple of years ago. I believe it was in MetLife against the Rams. And if you wanted to go to that game, you should have used SeatGeek. And I'm so excited to see the Giants, play eventually. And I already got my tickets for the Commanders game at the end of the year on SeatGeek. I'm trying to get to a Yankee game here if we could stop working so dang much. Um, which is why I want to give the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. What was the concert happening here the other day? Do you know? They were practicing for it.
I have no clue.
I think it was on Friday.
Hopefully no one with concussions goes to that concert.
I forgot about that. The Malik Neighbors concussion at their little concert. Oh, there was a soccer game here the other day too. So MetLife has all types of events. I mean, you can look at. I'm actually going to the Darlington race for our South of the Border show, and you can see there's my tickets right there through SeatGeek. So the NFL, it's getting ready to go. Baseball starting to wind down. Some playoff baseball for both New York teams. So make sure to check that out. Or if you're not, you can check some other team out. So SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you're getting a good deal. So look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. It's just like traffic. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and I came through for you guys. You can use code Bobby2025 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code Bobby2025. Make sure to click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek. Be glad you did. You're supposed to say it.
Oh, I'm glad I did.
You be glad you did.
You be glad you did. My bad.
All right, and here is Ed Valentine, a big blue view. All right, we now welcome onto the show Ed Valentine, a big blue view. Ed, welcome onto the bus.
Thanks for having me, guys. I was a little bit surprised to get an invite this morning.
Well, me and you had never talked, and then Ryan mentioned I was like, oh yeah, this would be a great first contact. Just get in my bus, Ed.
Well, appreciate it.
When I told him that he was coming on the bus, you would have thought that he won the lottery.
What is the bus? Because I remember when the van was introduced and there was a big talk. How is the bus talk?
The bus is right now. The bus is well received across the beat.
But want to get right into it. First, fully padded practice. But Ed, I want to ask you this: who's been the best player, do you think, so far? Because I do think there's competition from a few guys.
Oh, I think Abdul Carter, I think, is the best player. But the guy, we talk about the rookie class, and the guy who's really standing out lately, every day that I watch Cam Scatterbo, I'm more and more impressed. You see the ability to catch the ball, the ability to run routes, the vision as a runner. Every time I see the guy, and we had a chance to talk to him today, a little bit. I had a chance to talk to him today, and I'm just impressed by his attitude. He talked a lot today about just trying to excite not only this team but the fan base, and I found that really interesting. So I'm just really impressed by Scatterbo.
It seems like he's starting to, today it felt like he got the majority of the first team reps. I know they were working on some short yardage stuff, but I think he might be gaining the respect of the defense. They're actually he's forcing them to bring them down. I remember there was one play where they were backed up to the one, and he's got his back turned, and he's in a squatted position, just churning his legs and just not letting the defender get the win, even though it's just a drill.
Yeah, he loves this. I mean, he loves the contact. He loves the physicality. I mean, you guys probably know the story. This is a kid who used to put his brother's shoulder pads on and go out and run into telephone poles as a kid. So
he's a madman.
But
I feel like sometimes when you have a player like that, like when they kind of just become, a name in the draft, they can almost be overlooked a little bit. And but people forget. I mean, no, I don't think people forget. You got to remember, he pretty much single-handedly took Arizona State to the college football playoff last year. He won the Big 12 for them, obviously. This is a guy that it's translating to the NFL, at least, so far in training camp.
I mean, you gotta love a guy when you watch a game and he goes and throws up on the sidelines and then he goes out and starts running over people again. You gotta love that.
You mentioned Abdul Carter being the best player, and I agree. And we're going to start this regular show off with Abdul Carter. I guess when people are listening to this, they've already heard that. I was ready to say this on on Sunday and then now Monday, watching him on one-on-ones. Granted, the competition not being great outside of Jermaine Illuminor. I really think he's the second best player on the defense next to Dexter Lawrence. Like, I feel like it's a huge proclamation to make about a rookie, and usually I'm the one telling people to slow down with, these rookie proclamations, but it feels like Malik Neighbors last year where it's like, "All right, clearly great, let's wait for the games to really get excited about it."
Yeah, I'm not quite ready to go there yet until we actually see him in a regular season in regular season action, but I certainly understand why you would go there. He's clearly been a dominant force. I mean, I think it was the second day of camp that he just dominated Marcus Bowe on 3 straight reps. And yesterday, uh, you know, he he got by Jermaine Illuminor both with a speed move to the outside and then with a spin move. And Ryan can speak to this too, but we had a chance to talk to Coach Andre Patterson, the defensive line coach, in the spring, and Dre was talking about just how advanced his pass rush skills are and how I think he said next to Elvis Dumerville, he's the only other player that he's ever seen as a rookie who fully understands how to manipulate defensive or offensive linemen, and it's amazing.
I think the phrase he uses, like, he's just got a natural feel at the top of the rush, and that's you just see, like, even when the first move loses, he's just so quickly able to counter off of it, and I want Andrew Thomas back out simply because I like watching Andrew Thomas, how important he is, but I want him out just so I can get a barometer of Abdul Carter versus him because Jermaine Illuminor is a very solid right tackle, and he wins that pretty consistently, and even when, Brian Burns and Kayvon go against Jermaine, they'll get some wins, but Carter will win consistently, and then when Carter gets the matchups versus the Stone Forsyths of the world, it just kinda is easy money for him. So it's just like, I'm almost as much as I'm excited about Carter and wanted Carter throughout the whole draft process, I'm almost, like, bored until we get to those actual regular season games with him.
Yeah, the only other thing I wanna say about Carter is Brian Burns was asked about Carter today, and Burns said, "I think the thing that has impressed him most about Carter is just how he sets up one move after another. It's not like the spin move that he used on Illuminor the other day wasn't by accident. Said it was because he spent several reps setting up that move. And that's so impressive for a kid who's a rookie.
Right, you see the bendability, you see the athleticism, but he's a very cerebral player too, like you just mentioned, that anecdote from Burns there. Ed, what to you, we talk about the trenches, but is there anything else that really has been, the thing that sticks out the most to you about the trenches so far, through camp?
Well, other than today, I mean, it's so hard
Mhm.
because all through spring and the first few practices of camp, we didn't see any padded work. I mean, the only other thing that really sticks out to me is well, there's 2 things. All right, obviously Andrew Thomas just isn't there yet. And the more I watch him, I appreciate the fact that the Giants went out and got James Hudson. I appreciate the fact that they have a better plan than, well, let's just turn Josh Azudu, who's a failed guard, into an NFL left tackle. But the more I watch James Hudson, the more I question, just how much the Giants could rely on him if he has to play significant snaps this year.
No, certainly.
Yeah, with Hudson, I wasn't a huge fan of the signing, but like you said, I appreciate that, like, "Alright, let's take swing tackle," and someone every year, I feel like in August, was like, "Giants need to take swing tackle more serious," and they did this year, it's just at the same time, you're never gonna find in a sense it's like the whole good backup QB. A good backup QB is a bad starting QB, and the same with the swing ta it's not like a defensive tackle spot where you're rotating guys in. Um, Anything on Evan Neal that you think of so far? It's you guys have a different view from me, and I hadn't really noticed much the first days and then focused in on him today. Um, I will say it's kinda hard to judge the interior guys because I think the defensive tackle group is very weak outside of Dexter Lawrence, but he's at least past the bar of, like, competent against those guys.
I would say, he looks competent, he looks okay. Again, so incredibly hard to judge performance at this point. From our vantage point, we're so far away and and we don't get to see, the all 22 film to break this down. But what I will say, and I think Ryan and I were talking about this during practice, it's clear to me that the Giants are giving him a legitimate chance to win that left guard job. I I think they would really like him to win that job. Look at he's what 25 or 26, and if you get a 25 or 26-year-old player who you could give a second contract and he can be a solid interior guy, isn't that better than a 35-year-old stopgap?
Yeah, I didn't think they were actually gonna give him that opportunity. I thought I figured he was just gonna be working to be a backup guard and competing against those guys. But like you said, in fact, he's not even out with the second team a lot of times. It's just him rotating with the ones and getting, some second team snaps here and there. But I think he's taking more reps with the ones than the twos.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty mixed. I see him out there a
At
lot with
least
the
today.
twos, but you got some walkthrough snaps with the ones, and then you got some 11 on 11 snaps with the ones. But they've done a lot, not only with Evan Neal. I mean, they're rotating Cordell Flott and Deontay Banks back and forth at that second cornerback spot. It's still early where there's a lot of rotation, but it's pretty clear from the number of opportunities he's getting with the first team that he's got a legitimate shot to win that job.
Something that we have been able to see a lot of is the passing game, and that's what the first 4 days are really about. And today wasn't. Um, Malik Neighbors is obviously their clear number one option. Who do you see being that second option for Russell Wilson? Because it's basically been spread even between every other starter and even a couple backups after that.
Well, I don't know who's going to emerge there. Obviously, Darius Slayton, I'm still surprised when I look out there and I see Slayton out there as a Giant because I thought at the end of last year, um, just looking at his body language and sort of the flat tone of his voice when we got a chance to talk to him in the locker room,
Stunned. I was stunned.
I thought he's got a foot out the door. He's ready to see greener to find greener pastures. And like Ryan said, I'm stunned that he's back. And he's a good player. But I don't know if this is going to develop, but I can tell you who I think the Giants want to be the second guy in this passing attack, and it's Theo Johnson. I really think Brian Daboll would love Theo Johnson to develop into the second guy in this attack. Just, I mean, from day one, Daboll has talked about him. The pre-draft scouting reports mostly said, "Oh, he's probably a backup NFL tight end." Well, Brian Daboll certainly doesn't think so.
There's been a ton of talk about Theo Johnson all camp. I feel like he's been kind of the focal point, and I feel like a lot of people honing in on him. And you see it too at practice too. I mean, there's a reason Bobby and I've discussed earlier on some of these live streams, like the number two option's not as clear cut because of the limited reps towards Slayton and Wandale, obviously before he went down with injury. Theo Johnson's an interesting name to throw out there too. I like that.
Well, I even have the numbers up until today where I think Neighbors had 2 and the running backs had 2 from Russ. Neighbors has 10 catches, Tracy 6, and then Theo's third with 4 above both Wandale and Slayton, even though Wandale's missed some time. But it wasn't like even when he was out there, he was getting targeted a ton. So I think that's wide open. Where usually I'm like, this is who's going to be the guy. I remember a couple years ago, I was like, who's going to be the one? It's going to be Slayton outside of Waller, but interesting to see with Theo.
Can I throw out a question for you guys, though, when we're talking about receivers? Do you guys agree with me that as much as I love Wandale Robinson, I I have this feeling that his numbers, his production with Russell Wilson, a shorter quarterback in the middle, trying to throw to a guy who runs most of his routes in the middle of the field, who's 5'8" and, has the catch radius of a triceratops. I have a feeling his production is going to go down this year. I don't know if you guys agree with
I agree, and I think people have been giving him his production is gonna go up with better quarterback play, but I think his numbers are gonna suffer, even though he will have a more big plays here and there. I don't think he'll ever be a consistent down the field threat, but you saw he had that touchdown on day 2. But in reality he's had 3 catches from Russ in these camps where last training camp, it was 3 catches in a row for Wandale to start training camp. And Daniel Jones force-fed him, and obviously it didn't work well within the offense because everything was so closed in. So I think his catches may be more effective, but I one, it's impossible to get his usage on a team with Malik Neighbors, I think, a second year in a row, but Russell Wilson historically just doesn't use the slot very well.
And I agree too. And listen, I was fooled again on day 2 at camp, as Bobby mentioned. There was that great touchdown catch that he had, again on day 2, and I believe it was a team period. But I think you might see the yards per catch increase, but I don't necessarily think the body of work. I think you might see, total yards that will certainly decrease. Yeah, this is that was a really loud bus or
Yep.
the truck over there.
He's cleaning.
It's
I got bus on my mind, so I said a bus, and there's like a fly that's like flying around me. No, I'm with you though. I think
Stay
that
focused.
you're going to see.
it's a trade-off you might take, though.
Yeah, sure, certainly.
Let's get a little negative. Who's been the player you've been most disappointed in so far in camp?
Oh boy. There are Giants fans out there who are going to hate me for this, but it's got to be Jalin Hyatt to this point. And I know part of it is that he's been hurt, but I think he had pretty much 3 full practices before he got hurt, and I think I remember him catching 1 ball.
Yeah, it was the one deep pass.
The
with
one
Jaxson Dart.
deep ball, and I said this on my own show, and my guys, we did a live stream with all of us at Big Blue View, and these guys were laughing at me because I said, "Don't start with me with the Jalin Hyatt hype. Just don't start with me, because I've been fooled by it for 2 years. Watched him as a rookie in training camp, and I thought he was going to step right in and be a game-changing player right away. Didn't happen. Watched him run with the first team all spring last year and all summer last year. And when the game started, he was chained to the bench and Darius Slayton was playing. And again this spring, all kinds of Jalin Hyatt hype. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm done with the Jalin Hyatt hype. Let's get to week 1 and see what he does, because that's when it matters.
Well, first of all, he's not a starter, like you said, so the opportunities aren't going to be there. But in reality, he is a one-trick pony, and that one trick, once they added Malik Neighbors, became a little overrated when you had 2 guys who can win deep, like Slayton and Neighbors. Now, Hyatt when he can win deep better than anybody in the NFL, or a lot of guys in the NFL, and average 25 yards per catch. But when this team had Isaiah Hodgins on the team, Hyatt was valuable, even though he wasn't a complete player at all. At least he brought some value. Our teams had to respect both sides of the field. When you add Neighbors and Slayton, it's just like, you got to become a good player. You can't simply be this one-trick pony and have 420 yards. Like, that's not good enough for a high third-round pick. And I agree. I think the Hyatt, the only chance he gets to play is if someone gets injured consistently. And even then, I think he's going to be a guy like he was a rookie, where he'll have 1 game of 2 catches for 89 yards. And then the next 2 weeks, we're not going to see much of anything from him.
It makes me wonder too, if is this the reason that Gabe Davis keeps staying in the conversation as well. I feel like the other day talked about that the Giants are still kind of flirting with him a little bit. Are they going to add another? Are they going to bring in a Gabe Davis? Are they going to maybe, because maybe they're anticipating another Jalin Hyatt kind of he's going to be dissident a little bit. I wonder what's going to happen with him.
Well, now you've got Wandale banged up a little bit too, and we know that Brian Daboll's not going to tell us the true extent of the injuries at this point in time. He said that Wandale didn't practice today, because he basically got kneed in the leg and just needed a day to chill. But I wouldn't be surprised if Gabe Davis shows up as a Giant. I mean, I'm pretty sure the reason why he's not signed somewhere yet is teams don't like to sign guys to take up a roster spot until they can get on the practice field. And I don't know if he can pass a physical yet.
Last question, as we let the trash truck go by. Great anticipation. What is your record prediction for the 2025 New York Giants?
Oh, I did this. It was my turn to do this year when the schedule came out. We always do the way too premature game-by-game predictions. And I put my blue-colored glasses on, and the most optimistic record I could come up with is 7-10. I mean, it could be a 4-win year, it could be a 9-win year, but the most optimistic prediction that I'm willing to make is 7 wins.
Well, I think that's a clean sweep. I think we've gotten 3 record predictions in, and it's all been 7-10. And I hate talking about schedule, but in reality, their schedule is really tough. But I also think a year 4 regime should be held to a higher standard than, well, the schedule was tough. But it's just hard to see them winning a bunch of games without kind of everything going their way.
It is. It's so weird. You mentioned year 4, and I have to go back to 2022 because it really feels like with a young quarterback in place with Jaxson Dart and 2 good draft classes in a row, it really feels like this should be year 2 for Daboll and Shane instead of year 4. And it just feels to me like because of what happened in 2022, they strayed from the plan, and now they're a little bit behind in where they should have been.
Right. Ryan, do you got anything else?
No, I mean, just adding to that, I would just say
I feel like this trash truck is taunting us. At the
He's doing a good job.
The
Let's
trap
give him that. He's doing a good job.
No, I like you said, I was talking about this with someone else on the sideline today. Is that 2022 season? I know this is the most talked about kind of thing when it comes to this regime, but it just kind of skewed the expectations, going forward for that regime, and with the personnel that was there and everything like that. The timeline's all off, certainly. So this first year with this schedule, this being their first test with the rookie quarterback it's almost cruel, man. I know it's talked about a lot, but I feel like it's not even talked about enough. It's pretty cruel.
They're on 2 tracks. They're on,
Yeah.
The head coach and the GM have got to win games to keep their jobs, and yet the bigger, more important part is they've got to develop a rookie quarterback.
Right.
Yeah, we went a whole interview without asking you about Jaxson Dart. That's actually the real final question. What are your thoughts on Dart's progression so far through, in reality, 4 practices, because day 5, the quarterbacks didn't do a ton.
Again, it's one of those things where he had a really good practice on Sunday. We're going to see ups and downs. I don't think we've seen anything that makes you think, oh, this was a stupid idea, trading up to get this kid. And at this point, I think it doesn't look too big for him. He doesn't look afraid of it. Every player that you talk to talks about how confident this kid is and the swag that he's got. And I think some of them are even taken back by it a little bit. And I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that at all. But I haven't seen anything from Jaxson Dart, that makes me think he doesn't have a chance to be a good player.
Right. All right, Ed, thank you for jumping on the bus for the first time. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me. I feel like a star now.
Thank you, Ed, for jumping. First time I've ever done an interview, first time I met Ed. You told me, actually, is he in the 70s?
I actually have no idea. I don't want to say that off. Yeah, because I don't know.
Maybe that's wrong. But Ed, I've always, enjoyed reading Big Blue View, so it's good to finally connect with Ed. So go tag at Big Blue View and tell him you enjoyed him on the show. All right, so I wanted to finish off with this, so we don't go straight from interview to end the show. And what is one under the radar player that you've been impressed with over the last 3 days?
I want to say Jordan Bly, and it's just one of those things where you kind of look, and it might be a 3rd-team rep, it might be a 2nd-team rep, or what have you. He's always one of these guys that's just making these pretty incredible catches, whether it's Jaxson Dart throwing it to him, whether it's Jameis Winston throwing it to him. He had a great, I think it was the really good day from Jaxson Dart, day 4. Dart throws it to him up the seam, and it kind of sparks this drive that Dart had towards the end, where it was capped off with that would-be circus catch from Cam Scatterboot that I still think was inbounds. But at the same time, a lot of that momentum was created by Jordan Bly. It was definitely one of those guys that I think we'll get a look or two. Honorable mention for my pick is got to be Nick Jones, but we talked about Nick Jones enough.
Yeah, we already declared he got a full segment. He didn't even get the old,
He did.
Which Nick Jones actually, has, like, had good coverage over the last few days, but, like, has given up some tough like that Theo Johnson 7-on-7, Nick Jones was in coverage. Um, he did have one, like, good coverage on a deep Jaxson Dart pass that he didn't break up, but the receiver wasn't able to bring down. Uh, Mine's Bo Collins, and we're doing UDFA wide receivers, him being out of Notre Dame. I mean, him and Cam Scadabo both have 5 catches from Jaxson Dart in team drills, like, and that's led the way. And, Cam Scadabo is not a wide receiver, so Bo Collins has been the leading wide receiver for Jaxson Dart. He's even gotten a first team snap here or there. He got a catch from Russell Wilson, and he's like winning down the field too. Like he's beating these second string corners, getting down the field. There was a matchup with Trey Hawkins where Jaxson Dart throws it to his inside shoulder and he goes up and makes a play. Uh, he's like kind of like this solid route runner. And Grump, he was his favorite UDFA coming out of Notre Dame. Hopefully he can find like special teams role. Like he may have a role.
Yeah.
With Bryce Ford-Wheaton going down, like that may be an open spot for a wide receiver to get a chance. And I think Bo Collins might be leading the way. So, he's when I put together my preseason guys to watch, I think Bo Collins is gonna be one of those guys on it. So, all right, that's an episode. We will be back for live streams as we go along. Friday, we're supposed to have Jordan on Friday, and you're going to get to see the new Tony Award, which I'm really excited about. So hopefully that doesn't fall through. So we'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.